like. Now, Vanessa, let me welcome you properly to the programme and head over to Moscow and the terrorist attack, or is it a terrorist attack that happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a terrorist attack. Who was behind that terrorist attack is still not completely concluded. Although the head of the FSB put out a statement, I believe, Alex Bortnikov, in the last 24 hours, that Moscow now believes, or the FSB believes, that US, UK, and Ukraine are behind the Moscow attack. They don't mention Turkey, which is interesting because apparently the terrorists were actually trained in Turkey. Now, this was a statement put out by the US and the UK embassies in Russia on, I think it was the 7th of March, warning British citizens, US citizens, to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours and to include, obviously, crowded places, etc. But strange that they put in the wording to include concerts. Now, why is this strange? A lot of people have highlighted this on social media. But basically, at the same time, there was this report in Forbes. The US Embassy warns of imminent extremist attack in Moscow. And this was apparently based on an FSB foiling of an extremist attack against a Jewish synagogue in Moscow. The report is up on the FSB website. You can translate it into English. But interesting that the FSB report, which talks about preventing a terrorist act during which the terrorists were actually eliminated, did not mention any danger to concerts or even to crowded places. And then, if we remember that there was, the Russian security forces have mentioned that the original attack should have taken place, in their opinion, on the 8th of March, so that would tie in with the US-UK warning. But again, how do they know that it was going to be an attack on a concert? And that attack was delayed because the oligarch that owns the concert hall turned up to see a concert by a Russian patriotic singer called Shaman. And he was surrounded by bodyguards. And in theory, the terrorists pulled back because it was clearly too dangerous for them to carry out the attack at that time. Now, let's see John Kirby after the Crocus attack, what he said.
I'm not aware of any advanced knowledge that we had of this terrible attack.
On March 8th, the embassy warns of imminent attack in Moscow by extremists.
Yeah, I think that I'll let the State Department speak to that. But I don't think that was related to this specific attack.
Well, I mean, if they had information of any kind, why wasn't it passed on through official channels to the Russian security forces? Right, so that is a question that has to be asked. And why was he so quick to deny that they had any foreknowledge when they clearly did on March the 8th? Then, of course, other contexts, the NATO ally could command a 60,000 strong force in Ukraine. So this is the French leading the charge with a number of other countries going along with this to basically put NATO troops on the ground. So a handful of NATO nations discussing sending allied forces into Ukraine in training and advisory roles, though not as combat troops, allegedly. The Baltic states of Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia and Poland have expressed support of Paris's position, although the US and Germany are opposed. So that is another context prior to the attack on the Crocus. And then here we go, Barack Obama drops in for a cuppa with UK Rishi Sunak. What do they discuss for an hour when Obama is sitting with his cuppa with Rishi Sunak? He was allegedly in town for a meeting of the Obama Foundation, and Downing Street later said that the pair spoke for around an hour over cups of tea. They discussed a range of subjects, including artificial intelligence. Well, they could also have discussed many other intelligence issues. And then we have Vicky Cookies Newland, who put out this statement about 2 weeks before she actually resigned her position, where she mentioned the upcoming asymmetric warfare against Russia. So let's roll that video.
With the $60 billion supplemental that the administration has requested of Congress, we can ensure that Ukraine not only survives, but she thrives. With this support, In 2024, we can help ensure Ukraine can continue to fight, to build, to recover, and to reform. With this money, Ukraine will be able to fight back in the east, but it will also be able to accelerate the asymmetric warfare that has been most effective on the battlefield. And as I said in Kyiv 3 weeks ago, this supplemental funding will ensure Putin faces some nasty surprises on the battlefield this year.
I mean, interesting wording there. Also, immediately after the attack, of course, Alexei Danilov, who was the head of a Security and Defense Council in Kiev, put out an extraordinary statement mocking the Russians after the attack and stating, maybe we should visit you more often, which is an implied threat. The attack came immediately after, I think it was the same night, that Russia and China had vetoed the US-led UN resolution on the East Gaza ceasefire, which, of course, basically the US-led resolution was demanding the surrender of Hamas in order to achieve a ceasefire. That was vetoed by Russia and China, and the attack came on the same night. And then just a sort of a bit of a kickback to the 20th of October last year, when we showed a video interview with Amir Whiteman, the founder of the Likud party, one of the most far-right extremist parties in Israel. And let's hear what he said back then.
Well, we're going to win because we're stronger. After this, Russia will pay the price. Believe me, Russia will pay the price. Russia is supporting the enemies of Israel. Russia is supporting Nazi people who want to commit genocide on us, and just Russia will pay the price. Russia also. Now, listen to me very carefully. We are going to finish with these Nazis. We're going to win this war. It's going to take the time it's going to take, but we're going to win this war. Afterwards, we're not forgetting what you are doing. We're not forgetting. We will come. We will make sure that Ukraine wins. We will make sure that you pay the price for what you have done. You as Russia, and you and as all the enemies of Israel, and you as all the people who are now making everything they can to support genocide of the Jews in Israel. We are not forgetting. We are not forgetting. Remember exactly what I'm saying now. You will pay the price.
Again, interesting declaration there. And then this is going back to 2019, but actually you can find reports from as far back as 2014, how Ukraine became the unlikely home for ISIS leaders escaping the caliphate. So basically ISIS terrorists that were, let's say, incubated in Iraq, emerged from Al-Qaeda, created by President Obama, funded and equipped under Obama's administration inside Syria, fled to Ukraine, where, in my view, they were again incubated and, let's say, adopted by the CIA, because here they talk about the fact that the ones that made it to Ukraine are the dangerous ones, because once they get to Turkey, it's a fairly difficult route to get into Ukraine. And it then talks about the fact that this particular guy, Al-Bara Shishani, it's not the original Shishani leader of the original ISIS. This was another guy from Georgia also, so another Chechen. There are a large amount of Chechen ISIS fighters inside Ukraine right now. He was picked up by the SBU and the CIA, and it mentions in the report, it's unclear why they chose not to arrest him earlier. Now, we know that the CIA has a hand in the recruiting and the training of many of these ISIS members. Now, I would say that although the attack has been claimed immediately by the UK and the US with very little time to make that conclusion, the attack was carried out by ISIS. These were not, ideology-wise, these were not ISIS fighters. ISIS fighters would not allow themselves to be captured. They would die fighting, because martyrdom is a major ethos of the ISIS organization. So I don't think these were pure ISIS. I think they were mercenaries. Now, where were they recruited from? We know that they were picked up in Tajikistan. Of course, what does this do? Create racial divisions potentially in Russia. That could be another cause and effect of the attack itself. But this is another interesting piece of information that I have confirmed here in Syria. This was taken from a Russian Telegram channel. A few weeks before Crocus, a delegation of Ukrainian officers arrived at the Al-Shadadi base in the Syrian countryside of Al-Hasaka aboard an American cargo plane, in the northeast of Syria, so where US is occupying with the Kurdish Contra proxies. The Ukrainian delegation held several meetings with American officers at the base and meetings with Kurdish SDF leaders. The media of the SDF didn't officially announce the visit. Coordination between Ukraine and armed groups in Syria is carried out under the direct control of the US. Ukrainian intelligence previously maintained contact with Turkmen leaders in Idlib to conduct military operations against Russian forces on Syrian territory. Now, I have, as I said, confirmed this with numerous sources here. So what is Ukraine and the US trying to do? Are they trying to extend the war across borders? So combine the war in Ukraine and the war in Syria? Or are they trying to recruit more ISIS fighters from Syria to bring to Ukraine to make up for the meat grinder that they're putting their own conscripts into?
Yeah, good questions. Okay, well, we'll talk about a little bit more about this in extra, no doubt.